Hey guys, welcome back to my video. So this is going to be the birth story of Caden. Say hi guys! This is a story about a positive birth experience overseas. So he is my fourth son, but only my third pregnancy. And it's because I had twins. Our first set of boys is twins, and they were born in the States. And then we moved to Cambodia, and we had my next two babies here. So I also wanted to say that I made a birth vlog for this video, and I already posted that, and I will link it down below in the description box, so you guys can watch that if you want. And it's just a vlog showing the sequence of events of his birth. And yes, Caden is sleeping over there in that little crib. He is sound asleep. Well, if he wakes up towards the end of this video, I'll bring him over here close to the camera and show you guys. So at the time of me filming this video, he is 8 weeks old. So as I was preparing for this video, I jotted down a bunch of my notes so that way I could remember it clearly and in order and not be jumping around the place, so I could tell you guys in the sequence that it happened. So here's my notes of the birth story. So my doctor that I had with this pregnancy was the same doctor that I had with Creed, who is now 2 years old. And she is a really good doctor. She is a, I want to say Jinji Khmer, but she's a, how do you say in English? She's a Khmer. Her nationality is Khmer. There we go. Sometimes when you learn a second language, like you only think of the word in that language and not in your original language. Anyways, studied like abroad in France or somewhere, and she's a really good doctor. I really like her, and she's very friendly. She's really relatable. Like you can talk with her easily. That being said, though, she does have an accent. There can be misunderstandings, so you just gotta like repeat things sometimes. So, like I'll often find myself saying to her, "So what I think you said is blah 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 blah," and I just want to make sure that I understood her correctly, or vice versa. Sometimes I'll ask her a question and she doesn't quite understand what I'm saying, so I have to repeat the question again later, bring it up in conversation again. So that being said, she is a really good doctor, and I really did like her, but it's not quite like having somebody that English is their first native tongue or whatever. But that being said, I had this doctor with Creed, and I felt really confident with her, and I had a good positive experience with her last time, and so we went with her again. So from the very beginning, my doctor had said that I could have a VBAC, and a VBAC simply means a vaginal birth after a C-section, because my two previous births had both been C-sections, and I was really hoping for a VBAC with Creed, but ended up not happening. And this time I was really hoping for a VBAC with Caden, with that little guy. I was really excited that she said I could try for a VBAC, and I was watching all kinds of videos, birth stories, and reading books, and gathering all the information I could to help it be as successful as I could. With Creed, I had gotten a doula, but with Caden, I did not line up a doula. So towards the end of my pregnancy, it was pretty rough. I felt like I was huge, really uncomfortable, got out of breath easily, wore out easily, tired all the time. I was on the verge of having gestational diabetes, and so I had to be careful what I ate. And then if I did eat too much sugar or white flour, like I would have like a sugar rush and not feel the best because of that. I was just in a lot of pain and discomfort, like in my hips and my back and stuff, just from the extra weight. My feet. I didn't sleep good at night. I could only sleep on my sides. My hips would just start hurting really bad and have to get up in the middle of the night and like stretch and stuff to help them feel a little bit better. Yeah, I was just so ready to have this baby and have it over with. So at the end of my pregnancy, I was going in for weekly appointments. So at 38.5 weeks, I went in for my weekly appointment, and during that appointment, they had us meet with the anesthesiologist, and that's just normal. They always have you do that. At least with my previous pregnancies, I always did. So here comes Creed. Hey bud, come in. Can you shut the door?
Yeah.
Yeah. You gonna come join Mom?
Yeah.
No. Alright, why don't you come sit on the bed over here and you can listen to Mom. You wanna look at a book or something? Let me get him a book. Okay, so Creed is up here. He's just sitting here beside me. Okay, so what I was saying is I was going in for weekly appointments. At my 38.5 week appointment, they had me meet with the anesthesiologist, which is just normal protocol. He was from France, and he was just volunteering here at this clinic for a while. He is a anesthesiologist and practiced in France for several years already, and so he had some experience. So there's some pros and cons to that. He was able to speak English very clearly. We could communicate really easily, but then also, I don't know if it's maybe how people in France are, but he was also came across as very like rude. Maybe it's just his personality. Maybe it's just because he was a doctor. Doctors are kind of known to be that way. But basically, he told me how big I was and how he highly recommended that I needed a C-section. And he said in his practice in France, after 2 C-sections, that he always recommends that the people get their third one as another C-section, and that I not even try for a VBAC. So I was really disappointed. I was just shocked at how rude he was, how rude he came across. And in the appointment, I was just kind of like shocked and didn't say much. Dewey was with me. And he also had told me that my iron was low and I was anemic, and they had done a blood test and he showed me the results. And I knew that I'm anemic. I just didn't realize quite how low it was, which also explains like why I was so tired and wore out and stuff. And he said I should take 2 doses of iron daily, like liquid iron, and I forget what the amount was in the dosage, but anyway, so I started doing that because that was accurate. I can tell when my iron is low, and I know that's problems I had in the past. But anyway, what, Creed? Uh-oh. Alright, so got that fixed for him. Alright, where was I at? So, yeah, in the appointment, I was just kind of like shocked, and then on the way home, I just cried and cried. I just really felt like he just kind of cut all my hope out. He just said, you know, because he called me so big, and he said I needed a C-section. Anyway, he was not my normal doctor, and so I was just kind of hoping and praying that I could still try for a VBAC. So I was supposed to go home and take my iron daily, 2 times a day for a week, and they would come back in and test my iron levels again. And if they didn't improve enough, he was going to have me come in for like an IV of iron. I think I had to come in every day up until whenever I would deliver in order to try to get it up, get my iron levels up. So then at 39.5 weeks, I'm back in for my weekly appointment, and I met with my regular doctor, the lady that I liked, and she said that she highly recommends that I do a C-section, and that she didn't realize, and I don't know, she had this long row of stuff. And basically, I was really disappointed. I think what happened was this white male doctor from France intimidated her, because he was very intimidating. He's this big, huge guy, and his personality is just like that way. And I think he basically like told her that this is what she should do, and I don't know if that's what happened. That's just what I think is what happened. And so I was really disappointed. I tried like talking with her and discussing it and stuff, but anyway, she just strongly recommended a C-section. This is where the story starts to get a little bit more complicated. On one hand, it's a little bit of a relief to me, because I've had a C-section before in the past, and to me a C-section is not the end of the world. I know what to expect, and so it wouldn't be something new. And there's something really big and huge about like going into giving birth and kind of knowing what to expect if you've done it before, knowing how this hospital did it, what their normal routine is and stuff. So in a way, it didn't seem big and scary. I would have liked to try for VBAC just to see if I could do it. And then what also makes it more complicated is Dewey has a sister that's older than him. She's mentally handicapped. And she had a stroke about 2 weeks before this, and was in the hospital and was going downhill. It didn't look good. They weren't sure if she was gonna make it at this point. So what complicated it was, Dewey's brother had called and said they weren't sure how much longer she was gonna live, that it was looking really bad. And so Dewey decided that he would like to either be there for her last couple of days of life, or else for sure to go back to the States for her funeral. He didn't want to go back to the States to see his sister and leave me here like by myself to give birth by myself, even though we do have some teammates here. We were discussing about if it'd be better if we would go ahead and schedule the C-section for sooner rather than later. That way I'd have as much time to recover before he had to go back for his sister's funeral. So that's one positive thing about having a C-section, is that you can schedule it, you can plan it, you can line up babysitters if you already have like other kids, and especially when you live overseas and you don't have just like grandparents that live down the street, like you have to interrupt other people's lives to get them to babysit your kids for you while you're in the hospital. That was another positive we were looking at and discussing of having a C-section. In the end, we decided we would go ahead and schedule the C-section. I think it was like a week out at that point, and then we would try some things in the meantime to go into labor naturally. So we tried all the things to go into labor naturally on our own. I tried walking, we did lots of walks. I also had a birthing ball, bouncing on that. I had a breast pump. We tried all the old wives' tales. We tried all the things, and nothing worked to put me into labor. Fast forward to, I think it was about, we had 3 or 4 days left before my C-section. Dewey's brother called and said that she was gonna pass away, like they figured anytime. It was like 3 a.m. Friday night or early Saturday morning. And Dewey called our doctor, the hospital, and asked if we could schedule the C-section for that morning, like Saturday morning. And so he had to check, he was gonna call us back. So it went an hour or two, and like Dewey and I were not sleeping because like Dewey's sister was on her deathbed, and then also we were like, well, what if we go in a couple hours to have this birth? And so we were like, our minds were just racing. And yeah, the doctor called back and said they couldn't do it that morning, but they could do it Saturday afternoon. So then we started checking with our team and stuff if they could babysit the boys, and yeah, it worked out for them. Thankfully, I had already packed my hospital bag and had it all packed. I had made a video about when I packed my hospital bag for a birth overseas for a C-section, and so you guys can watch that if you want. I'll try to link it below. And I just had a couple last minute things to throw in my bag, and then I couldn't eat, which kind of stinks, but in previous C-sections, both my previous C-sections, I had thrown up, and so I knew how important it was to not eat because I didn't want to deal with that again. So yeah, then we took the boys to our teammates, and then we hopped in the car and left. And we're driving in there. On the way in, we were discussing names. We had it narrowed down to 3 names. So then we got to the hospital, and yeah, it's the same one, or clinic, the same one that I had Creed at. We went inside, and there was some confusion with the secretary because we had scheduled it just that morning, you know, and she was like, well, you're not in the computer. And then she had to go and check with the doctor and stuff, and came back, and she's like, oh yeah. She's like, well, right now the doctor's in doing a C-section. And it turned out later we learned that there was actually 4 baby boys born that same day, and 3 of them were born by C-section also, same as him. So all by the same doctor. So that doctor had a busy day that day. Anyways, she was in doing a C-section, and she said that we were lined up to be the next one. So they took us upstairs to my room. I got changed, and Dewey prayed with me. I was really scared. Like, having a C-section is a major operation, and you don't know if you're going to be okay. I mean, you more than likely will be. And you don't know if the baby's going to be okay or not. You do know you're going to be in quite a bit of like pain, soreness, and stuff when you recover. Anyway, so I was nervous and kind of scared, and Dewey prayed, and that was really sweet of him. He is such a good husband. Before the C-section, they monitored me for 30 minutes to see if I was having contractions or not. And I could have told them I was not having contractions because with Creed, I was having a lot of like Braxton Hicks. And with this one, I was not having anything like that. So I knew what that felt like. But anyway, they put me on the monitors for 30 minutes, and yeah, there was nothing. And when I'm full-term pregnant, I cannot lay flat on my back. And so I laid on my side. I don't know how women do it who lay flat on their backs full-term pregnant for like even 30 minutes to be monitored. But anyway, so then they put me in a wheelchair, pushed me upstairs for the C-section, and they took me to the operating room for my epidural, and Dewey had to stay out for that, which kind of stinks. And while he was out, they had him put on like this blue garb and like a hairnet and stuff. And I went into the operating room by myself. I still remember, like, I walked, there's a little ramp, and so I had to get out of the wheelchair. I walked up into it, and I was just like so nervous. My legs felt like jello. Even though this is my 3rd C-section, I was still nervous. And then I sat down in the bed, and that white male anesthesiologist from France was there. And I'll be honest, I was really glad for him. Even though I had mixed feelings about him in the past, I was really glad to see him there because I could speak English to him. And I can speak Khmer, but when you're like all nervous and scared, and then plus like if you have drugs in your system, it can be really hard to think in a second language to tell them like, hey, I have pain such a place or whatever. And so I was really glad to see him, that I could speak English to him, and he could speak Khmer, so he could translate for us. And like I could understand what he was saying. I knew what was going on, but it's just hard for me to like think to know what to say in Khmer. So that was really nice. I could talk to him, and I told him how in previous C-sections I had thrown up, and so he said okay, and I think he adjusted the meds to help with that. Gave me something to help me not feel dizzy and nauseous. Usually in the C-section, the operating room is really cold, and like especially once you get drugs in you, you're just like shaking and shaking from the epidural and being cold. And so this time it was really cool. They had like this heater, portable heater with a hose, and they put it, like when I laid down, they put the blanket on me, and then they could put the hose inside the blanket, and like it blew warm air on me, and it felt so good. Like that's like the best invention ever, and I think that's a really good thing to have in an operating room. Anyways, they had me lay down, and then they let Dewey come in. And I was like asking for Dewey long before this. I was like, when can my husband come in? When can he come in? And I think the anesthesiologist felt bad for me. He was like rubbing my hand and stuff. Because they have you spread out like this with IVs in your hands and stuff. So they don't want it to get like messed up. Because they also put a, is it AKG? Like a heart rate monitor thing, and all those little sticky things all over you to so they can monitor you properly, and they don't want to get all those wires mixed up. So anyway, you have your arms out like this, and the anesthesiologist was like rubbing my hand. I think he was like trying to help me calm down, which was sweet of him, which was nice. So I got to see a good side of him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, then let's see. Yeah, then they let Dewey come in, and then they were like testing me, and they always do this, like, I don't know if they feel that they take something sharp and like poke you, and like, can you feel this, can you feel this? And I could feel it. I could feel exactly where they were poking me. And so they were like, okay, well, we're gonna have to redo the epidural. And so they had me sit back up again, and they put like that numbing stuff on, and then they put and you can like feel that, the numbing stuff. It's just like they brush it on the outside of your skin. It just feels maybe slightly cool, that's all. And then they stick a needle in, and I think this is how they do it, that numbs you in more, and then they stick like the actual epidural in. And Dewey said that is a huge needle. He said it made him not feel good watching it. Like, he understands now why usually they have the dads wait outside, because they don't want them fainting in the OR. And yeah, Dewey said it definitely made him not feel good just seeing that big needle go into me. But for me, like, I didn't feel any pain at all. Some people say it feels like a bee sting, but to me, I don't feel anything. Like, honestly, it doesn't hurt at all. Like, because they numb the skin, then they numb with the needle, and then they stick the epidural in, and it is not painful. If you guys are watching this, preparing for a C-section, don't be scared. It doesn't hurt, at least with my experience. So anyway, then they had me lay down and poked me again to test to see if this epidural was working, and it was. I couldn't feel it this time. Because I was full term and laying flat on my back, I started feeling like I couldn't breathe, and I started feeling like dizzy and kind of seeing black and white spots. I started panicking. I was like rolling my head back and forth, and I was like, I can't breathe. And like there was some wire going across my neck. I was like pulling it away, and the anesthesiologist came and like was readjusting the wire for me. But I still, like, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. He's like telling me, just calm down, calm down. And Dewey was talking to me, and he was really sweet talking to me, but it just wasn't helping. I started saying, I think I'm gonna faint, I think I'm gonna faint. Because I fainted before, and I know how I feel before I faint. And like everything was, yeah, starting to go black and white and fuzzy and stuff. And he tilted the table. And just like that, like, I felt better. It was instant. And I'm pretty sure it was just because I was full-term pregnant, laying on my back, and it was cutting off my blood flow. And as soon as he did that, and that weight got off of that, and I felt so much better. Because of the way the table was tilted, like, I turned my head away from Dewey because it helped. Like, I could breathe better on that side because of the way the table was tilted. And so Dewey was sitting like on this side, so I couldn't see him, but he was like holding my hand and talking to me. And one thing I told him ahead of time is, and this might be a tip for you guys if you're preparing for a C-section, is to take me out of the room. Like, to talk about the ocean and imagine like that I'm laying on the beach, and to use all the senses, like how it would feel, how it would smell, what I would hear, all the sounds, all that stuff. And so he was talking me through that, and that really helped too, to help me like calm down then, and just like get me out of the room mentally. So yeah, then they cut me open, and from the time that they start like operating on you, cut you open till the baby is out, is literally like 5 minutes. Like, it's so fast. So then they pulled the baby out of me, and that was another really nice thing with the anesthesiologist, because he was speaking English. He was telling me exactly what was happening, and I really appreciated that. He's like, okay, I see his head, and then I see they're pulling his head out, now his shoulder's coming out, and then like, yeah, just talked me through everything, and that was really nice. They showed me a glimpse of the baby, and they got a towel and just like patted him down, because you know they're all bloody and all that. Brought him over and laid him on me. I got to do skin with him, and that was so sweet. And then they still had that warm heater blowing air on me, which was really nice. And I just remember, like, I felt so good. Of course, I had all those drugs in my system. I felt warm, and I was really relaxed, and I could breathe easily. Dewey was there, and I had my baby, and I just remember I just felt so good. I know some people talk about after C-section that you're really out of it and you don't know what's going on. And with my first C-section, it was that way, but with this one, I felt so good, and I was with it. I remember it. I remember everything. And yeah, later that night, I wished I could go back to that feeling, which I'm sure was from the drugs somewhat. I just felt like I didn't have a care in the world. And later that night, I was in a lot of pain during the middle of the night. I remember wishing, oh, I wish I could go back to having those strong meds in me. It was nice. The baby, when they pulled the baby out, Dewey cut the cord. I forgot to mention that, so that was special. And then Dewey did skin to skin with the baby for a while, so that was sweet. So then we stayed in the OR for, I think it's around an hour, and then they moved us to recovery room for 2 hours. Dewey went out to our car to get our bags and stuff, bring it in, and then while he was gone, they came in and moved me from like the OR bed to like more like a mobile bed, and took me down to my main room. So yeah, when Caden was born, he was 7 pounds 11 ounces, and he was born at 3:39 p.m. Yeah, about 3 hours after Caden was born, the girls who were watching our boys brought them in so they could meet their new little brother. So that was really fun and special, and they were so excited. Creed, when he saw me, he didn't want to get on the bed. He was like afraid he was going to get an ouchie also, because I had like, the only thing he could see was the IV in my hand. Uh-oh. There's my baby. So when Creed came into the room, he didn't want to get on the bed with me because he was afraid of my ouchies, because the only thing he could see was like the IV in my hand, and he was like, ouchie, ouchie, and I think he thought if he got on the bed he was going to have the ouchie too. Anyway, the boys were really happy and excited to see their little brother, and they all got a turn to hold him. So here's a little guy, he's yawning. He is 8 weeks old now, and he is a lot of fun to have. He's a little chunk, definitely put on some weight already. Pretty easy little guy. So anyway, continuing on with my story, Erica had come in with him and she brought me a bunch of stuff, a bag full of gifts, a whole bunch of sweet things that she had the boys help her pick out and bring in for Mom. So that was really special. What's the matter, Creed? Huh? Anyway, then the boys left, and that evening I did more skin to skin, and I felt really good in the evening, just laying in the bed there. And then during that night, though, that night was not fun. I had a lot of problems with gas. When they cut you open for an operation, air gets in there and they sew you back up and it's caught in there, and it can be really painful. And with my first C-section I had problems with that. With my second C-section I didn't have any problems with it, but then with this one I had a lot of pain during the night, like really sharp pain, like really bad. Alright, this little guy just loaded his diaper, so I'm gonna have to change it. Alright, so here's this little guy. He had a explosion in his diaper, and it come out all over his sleeper, so we had to change his diaper and change his clothes. Do you hear Mom talking? That's okay though. We love you, yeah. Oh, are you gonna talk? Yeah. Yeah. Not quite sure. He has just recently started grinning, and he grins pretty easily now, and it's the sweetest thing ever. Most precious little grins. Hey. Hey. Oh. So I just fed him, but I think there might be a bubble in that. Yeah, there's a grin. Yeah. Aww. Yeah. That was so sweet. Yeah. Are you going to talk? Yeah. Anyway, continuing on with my story. So that first night after the operation, I was in quite a bit of pain. I kept my eye on the clock because I knew when it was time for them to bring me meds. And so I'd always ring my bell a little bit ahead because I was just like ready and waiting for that meds because I was in so much pain. Anyways, finally till morning we got ahead of the pain. I would not want to repeat that first night. That was pretty miserable. Then I was pretty good. And except for my back and hips hurt, and I think it was just from like being pregnant and being big and huge and uncomfortable. I'd already been in pain before the operation in those same areas, my hip and my back. And then I think just laying in the bed for, you know, laying flat on my back the evening and the night before didn't help. Oh, what's the matter? Is there a bubble in your belly? Is there a bubble in there? Or are you tired? Anyway, so the next morning then I was able to get up and walk around, and so that was really good. The quicker you get up moving around after C-section, the faster you heal and the less pain you're in. And I was able to shower later on that day, and yeah, it was just really good. We had some visitors. One guy brought us sweet rolls and coffee from Starbucks, so that was a splurge, and that was definitely really special. Thank you. Let me grab his pacifier. The way the food works in this hospital or clinic is a little different than how it works in the States. So they have a menu from a couple different restaurants that are really close by, and for each meal you have a set amount of money like that comes with your package or whatever that you can put towards food, and then once you go over that then you just pay it yourself. So you order in from these restaurants, and you just tell the hospital what you want from the menu. They call the different restaurants and tell them what you want. They deliver it, and then they bring it up to your room. Creed's here beside me. Creed, what's the matter? So anyway, some restaurants had like more like Khmer food, and some restaurants that had more like Western food, and so we ordered a mixture of both. Right. So then back to the story. Dewey's sister, Jolene, she passed away about 30 hours after this guy was born, and that was really hard. Dewey's dad called on the phone when we were there in the hospital, and I remember Dewey just crying. It was really hard for him to not be with his family and to hear his dad crying on the phone and stuff. And of course I started crying because I was laying in the hospital bed and had all these hormones just giving birth and stuff going through me. Anyways, Dewey bought his plane ticket. He'd been watching ticket prices and stuff, and he bought his plane ticket for the day before we were supposed to leave the hospital. And then we ended up explaining to the staff there at the hospital the situation and asking if we could go home one day early. And they said, yeah, sure, as long as Caden passed all of his tests. And he did. And I had a couple things that I had to be able to do, and I was able to do that. And so they left us go home one day early, which was really nice because then Dewey could take us, me and Caden, home in the car, and we didn't have to get like a pass app, which is kind of like a rickshaw. Didn't have to worry about going home in that with all of our luggage and stuff. And then once we were home, Dewey could carry like all the suitcases up the steps and stuff to our room, and I wouldn't have to do that, or would have to ask someone else to do it. Because after you have a C-section, you're not supposed to lift anything heavier than your baby. So the hospital, they took really good care of us. The staff are really friendly. I love all the nurses and doctors there and stuff. They're always really friendly, and because it's such a small place as a clinic, you're able to get to know them individually, and a lot of them remembered me from previously when I had been there before. And I feel like you get better care that way because it's not just a bunch of strangers taking care of you. It's people you actually know and remember. And then the hospital, their policy, they always give you this huge bouquet of flowers, and they also gave us 2 baskets. One basket was kind of for baby. It had like diaper and formula in it, like 1 diaper and formula and a bottle. And the basket for me that had like some sort of milk powders, like vitamins for mom. I don't know. Anyways, it was nice of them. And they take a photo of you, of your family. Yeah, Caden and I passed all our tests. We were released a day early. We came home. And in Cambodia, you're able to hold your baby on the drive home. They don't have to be in a car seat. And so that's one thing that's different. Yeah, so we came home from the hospital, and the same day that we got home, that evening, Dewey left then on his flight for the States. So that was kind of hard for me to see him leave. With our previous babies, right after they were born, I felt like when we first got home was a really bonding time. Just life kind of would slow down and be still, and we wouldn't do much and just hold the baby, take care of the baby. You know, I couldn't get out of bed very fast. Like just getting in and out of bed after C-section is really hard. And so like it was just nice to be able to slow down and to spend time bonding. And I like to light my candles and have my oil diffuser going and have music playing and just lots of bonding hormones going. And so for me it was kind of hard to see Dewey leave because couldn't have that or whatever. But at the same time, like if I had been in his shoes, my sister passed away, I by all means would have been on a plane too to go back. It was a roller coaster of emotions because we were so happy to have our new son born, but also we were really sad to have our sister and sister-in-law pass away. Although it's really sad that she passed away and we will definitely miss her, I know that she is in a much better place in heaven and with a sound mind and body, and I can't wait to one day meet her up there and see what she's like. So my mom, when she heard all that was going on, she hadn't been planning to come for his birth, but with Jolene passing away and Dewey going to the States, she bought a ticket last minute and came over, and she arrived, I think the day after Dewey left, and so that was really nice. She was here for 1 week, and that's nice that she could come for that long. Anyway, I feel like the first couple of days I was still in quite a bit of pain, but I was just able to take like ibuprofen, and that worked, and it wasn't, with less than a week, I didn't even have to take that anymore. So that's amazing how fast the pain level goes down after you have a C-section. And Mom was here and she cooked for us, and this little guy did really well. And let's see, Dewey came back from the States the same day that Mom left. Mom left in the morning, and then Dewey came back like that night at like midnight. And one of our teammates came over to be with the boys. They're already sleeping in bed, and then Caden and I hopped in our car and went out to the airport to pick up Dewey. And so that was really special. I was really glad to have him come back. Although it was hard for him to leave his family and stuff, and yeah, I'm glad he was able to go back for a bit. He said it helped it seem more real for him, helped him be able to grieve a bit, but the grieving process is definitely still ongoing. And yeah, I feel like I'm healing really well, and I talked about previously that I think I have a touch of the baby blues, and I'm sure it has to do just with all the emotions or everything that was going on, and then also just healing. I've had 4 babies in 5 years, a little over 5 years, and so that definitely takes a toll on your body and, you know, your vitamins and stuff, a deficiency. So I need to work on building that up and building my iron up, stuff like that. And I'm definitely feeling better. My energy level's coming back, and I'd say for the most part, I feel like I'm over the baby blues, but maybe occasionally still have a day where I just have a lot of those big questions again, like what is the point of the cycle of life? Changing another diaper, washing more dishes, doing more laundry, and just all those mundane day-to-day tasks feel so pointless. But I just try not to let myself dwell on that, and instead dwell on more positive thoughts and praising the Lord and worshiping Him, and that really helps a lot. And then also I feel like my energy level's coming back and my vitamins and iron is slowly coming back up too, which I'm sure helps a lot too. So anyway, that is the birth story of Caden Lou. I hope you enjoyed it. He is a very easygoing, laid-back baby for the most part, except when he's hungry. Then he wants to eat now, but I think that's pretty normal with babies, and it's a healthy sign. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, so that's all for this video, and we'll see you guys again next week. Bye. Thanks for watching. Bye. Alright, bud, can you say bye? Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.